Hello and welcome to A Gentleman Talks. This is our series of one-to-one interviews with ladies and gentlemen where we talk about their work, their lives and their influences, all within the framework of our mission to make the world a more respectful, stylish and gentlemanly place. And this afternoon I'm delighted to welcome to The Perfect Gentleman Deborah Gayle, who is Managing Director of an extremely successful Mayfair men's grooming emporium. Welcome.
Hello, Nick.
Hello. And how did you arrive in Mayfair to look after all us gentlemen?
Set of life-changing circumstances, moved on from a marriage and own business. Was introduced by a mutual friend to the founder of the Refinery. He set the Refinery up in 2000, way ahead of what is now happening in grooming. Right. I think probably he was one of the first to see that there was going to be a really successful, booming business in male grooming. Mm-hmm. I joined in 2008 and have sort of carried on the work that he started, and we now have a wonderful site in Mayfair, 5-storey townhouse, directly opposite Claridge's, right in the heart of Mayfair, where we look after some of London's most discerning gentlemen. And we have a wonderful site in Harrods. The Refinery at Harrods is on the lower ground floor, which is an area dedicated to gentlemen, and we look after them and all the people that come into Harrods.
So the gentlemen of London should be extremely grateful to you. Was the men's grooming business something that you were doing before you arrived at the Refinery? Is this?
No, I was doing ladies and men. I hadn't specifically just looked after men, but I've become quite evangelical about it now because I can see so many men need it, would like it, but feel intimidated to come in. They have all sorts of peculiar perceptions about what we're about. But right. Once we've got them in, and once they see the sort of people that are sitting in the lounge, frequently they recognise somebody, which is always quite funny.
Right.
There's a lot of backslapping and maleness going on between them. If you understand what I mean from that.
I do.
Then they will always come. Many of our clients actually start coming to us via a gift voucher.
Right.
That has been bought by a woman.
Okay, interesting.
Mother, wife, secretary, somebody.
Yeah.
And we often see them walking up and down outside our shop with a gift voucher, sort of looking in and trying to work out whether they dare come in. So we actually have to open the door and say, are you looking for us? Do come in. We want to be non-intimidating. We want to ensure that they feel comfortable, relaxed, and we have to explain a lot more to them. Women know very much more about beauty than men. You know, it's just the things that will happen.
Right.
Men don't really know, so we actually go through everything that's going to happen so that we don't have anything untoward happening in the rooms.
Do you find that that's an age thing? Do you think younger men are more aware of grooming than older men, or is it just men in general?
No, the younger men are more aware of grooming. Mm-hmm. i.e. that they need to be moisturising, they need to be wearing sun factor. They don't know about the protocols. So if you actually ask them what happens in a beauty room with regards to a facial, they don't really know. So, and that's what we need to tell men. So, you know, so they feel comfortable about what they should or shouldn't be taking off in clothes and what to physically expect, i.e. that they should shut their eyes if they're having a facial, that they shouldn't be on their phone when they're having a facial.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, you know, we have to help them along.
Just explain.
Yes, chivvy them along, and they nearly always come back. So.
Well, it's a great experience. I'm very lucky. My wife has taken me a couple of times to spas and introduced me with her. I mean, she's loved going to spas for a number of years. So so I'm very lucky to have been introduced in that way. But I do remember the first time, and it was a very out of unworldly experience because it's not something.
No. Well, the whole idea of our founder was that he used to travel abroad a lot with business, and he would go into hotels and often on his own, so he thought he'd go to the spa and see what's happening, and there'd be a full spa menu for the women,
Right.
and for him they'd say, oh, there's a sauna,
Right.
or maybe go and have a swim.
Yeah.
And that was it. So he'd put the white robe on like the women, and the women would go off and have massages and facials and manicures and pedicures, and he just sort of had one destination.
Yeah.
And he said surely he couldn't be the only man that would actually like to have had that menu for himself.
Yeah.
And he was young, he was only in his early 30s.
Right.
And so, you know, what started as quite a small idea, I think, has grown. We have our own product range as well, because we found that in the time that most men's products were actually bastardized versions of female products, repackaged,
Right.
renamed, same product. And so we collated a set of products and tested them on our gentlemen. So it was men testing them. So, you know, men have different skins and men shave, and there's all these things. There's smells that men do and don't like, different from women. And once we'd got the perfect group of products, we put them out to the market
Right.
and started winning awards with them. So we also have the Refinery products too.
Excellent. And so, as a gentleman, my first experience of coming to you, what do most people, if I'm going to break myself in gently to the world of the Grooming Emporium, where would I generally start? What's a gentle?
We normally find that a gentleman will probably start actually with something called a Refinery shaving experience. So they're having it in a barber's chair, so therefore it's a known quantity.
Right.
But they don't really know what it is. And what it is, we've devised a shave and a facial. But it's all done in the barber's chair, takes an hour. It's a wonderful and relaxing experience. The gentleman will understand it. He won't really know what's going on, but he'll understand about the hot and the cold towels and the shaving. But then he will nearly always say that my skin has never felt so good. And we'll say, well, actually, it's because you've had a facial within the shave.
Right.
And then they say, oh, you know, well, maybe I'll book in for another facial. The other way to ensure that our clients are happy about it, we give them a tour. We actually show them all the way around,
Right.
so that they can actually see the rooms. You know, once you see something, most of the fright goes out. It's the unknown that's frightening.
Right.
Our girls are lovely. They're very warm and welcoming and absolute experts on sort of the questions that the men will ask. So we know we start with that. The other one that a lot of men will start with is a massage, because that can be quite a manly sort of sports massage, and they'll come in and try us and see what we're like on those. And we
Right.
have, again, specialists on sports massage.
So, for most men, that word having a facial that you described within the shaving experience, that's just a total anathema to most men, isn't it? Just explain for the men watching this for whom a facial is something that maybe their wife has gone and had. Just explain what that means.
The basis of a facial is to actually attempt to thoroughly cleanse the skin and exfoliate, because you can have acres, probably an exaggeration, but a lot of dead skin cells, especially as you're aging. That's what gives you the duller appearance in your face,
Right.
is because the skin is not shedding like it was. Now with men it is slightly different, because you're shaving all the time. You're actually almost shaving your skin raw sometimes.
Right.
So again, we're having to sort of put a balance into the skin. The two main reasons for a facial is to brighten and lighten the skin.
Right.
And also it makes you feel good to have somebody massaging your face and cleansing your face and exfoliating. There's variations. We bespoke all our treatments. So if you came to me, the first question we would ask you prior to doing anything is, what are you experiencing that's different, maybe? Because, you know, as people get older, suddenly they think, actually my skin feels much drier than it used to. So we're finding out what your problems are. We like to call them challenges, but, you know, and then we'll find the solutions.
Right.
So we will bespoke a set of treatments to bring your skin back to the condition that you would expect it to be in.
Right.
Sometimes it's been diet, or somebody's been away for a long time. People who fly a lot really dehydrate. And ageing, of course.
Yeah.
That's the big one. Men who grew up with grooming, who may be in their 20s and 30s, you know, they're in their late 30s, 40s, and this whole sort of ageing thing. I mean, I think there's many reasons for it, but they're quite quickly catching women up.
Yeah, I think I saw some figures recently that said that the what men are spending on beauty products or products now is increasing at quite a significant rate now, that men are on the way to catching up.
They are, and of course they are now. And you know that this is true because all the major companies, L'Oreal and Unilever, all these major companies are now putting out products specifically for men, but not just putting them out, they are heavily advertising them. I don't know if you've noticed, for the last 2 to 3 years, virtually every advert for Father's Day on television was for a skincare product.
I hadn't, no, but...
in the old days, you would find they were, I don't know, something very much more masculine, you know, I don't know, shears or a lawnmower or you know.
Or Brute maybe, or something like that.
Or something, but it was all about skincare.
Right.
So it was talking about deodorants, it was talking about moisturising, and that's very intriguing. And these are the big major companies who are now seeing that it's more than a trend, it's more than a passing fashion set by David Beckham, maybe, and, you know, it would fall off. I mean, men are now. But the interesting thing is, which I find, I think actually men always did groom, and then for whatever reason we lost it after the war. Because I have a picture of Harrods, the Harrods barbershop that we took over in 1932, and if you go to it now, it still looks the same as the picture. Beautiful, it's all sort of black and silver. All the men are sitting having their hair cut by barbers, but all the men also have a girl sitting next to them doing manicures.
How interesting.
And we do the same thing, synchronised manicures. So time poor men, we can, if they're really time poor, we can quick shave, quick haircut and manicure, all done whilst they're in the barber's chair. Because that's, the problem is that men haven't yet allowed themselves to put time aside for this. English women are quite poor at it as well. French women are amazing. They'll always find 2 hours a week for a facial. Always. Right. There's a bit of guilt in, you know, English, and the men it's even worse. You know.
Yeah, well, yeah. How many men do you have a week who'd come in and spend an hour or a couple of hours?
We can have anything up to, I suppose, I think monthly 1,000.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, over the 2 sites we have a lot of clients, but we also have clients who come for everything.
Yeah.
So they'll have a cut and a shave or a facial, a manicure and a pedicure and a massage, and they'll come for 4 hours, first Monday of every month, or that sort of thing. So, you know, they put it into their schedule, or that their PAs will call it in and book it for sort of the next 6 months. Yeah. So in a way, once they get it and they do it and they like it, then it becomes a regime.
Enjoy it.
Yes.
Because 4 hours, again, in our lives today, for people working in London, I suspect having 4 hours to just stop, if they can get off their phones while they're having their facials,
that
and
is
actually be able to stop. That's a great.
Also, having your phone on when you're having a haircut and when you're having a shave. We've been debating about whether we could ask clients not to be on their phone, out of courtesy to the other people, because as you are aware, most people, once they get into a phone conversation, forget that everybody can hear what they're saying. Yeah. And in our barbers' rooms, you've got 7 or 8 total strangers listening to one person, and sometimes it's a very unnecessary conversation. You know, it could be about work that we shouldn't be hearing, or a person we shouldn't be hearing.
My experience, when I've had facials 3 or 4 times in my life, is that it's intensely relaxing to do it, and I can quite happily just drift off while that's happening. So having somebody wake you up with a telephone, I'm not going to be very pleased with that as a client, I can imagine.
I mean, most men do drift off. They do feel slightly guilty about it, but in fact my girls feel that it's a good thing we've done because you've relaxed.
Yeah.
You wouldn't drift off to sleep if you weren't relaxed.
No.
And, they know that they've had the treatment, obviously.
Yeah. And you're much more likely to relax if your phone's turned off, what you should do anyway.
And if you've got your eyes shut.
Yeah.
And you're not talking. But it's that sort of protocol that we have to say, just lay down, shut your eyes, don't talk.
Yeah. Which most people aren't used to doing, are they? So you talked about shaving, and I know this is one of my real big passions, is how men are not ever taught to shave. So just for the men out there who, like me, were probably either went and bought their own disposable Bic razors when they were 16 or 17 and a tube of spray foam and just set about it themselves without any just let's just talk through how you should address shaving and how you should go about it, a proper regime.
What we do, and we find the same thing, we often have gentlemen who come in and my master barbers can tell immediately that they don't shave properly. We actually have a system set up called the Principles of Shaving, so that we can teach people who aren't shaving properly, because obviously it's an ongoing problem. They are damaging their skin. So we do half a face and then the client's doing the other half.
Okay.
Piece by piece.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not an expert on the physicality of shaving because I, thank God, don't shave.
Yeah.
But I've watched it, and of course, apparently there's a lot of misunderstandings about going against the grain and all of this, and it's really how it is for each individual. So we sort of almost do an individual shave and then teach. Like you, it would be done to fit the frame of your face, where your beard is, how it grows, where it's strong, where it's weak, where you don't want beard.
Yeah.
Then once that's been sort of set in, then we teach you how to get that effect.
Right.
Because men used to be taught by their fathers, or by the old-fashioned barbers of the day.
Right.
They would be taken for their first shave. And again, what we're doing is only doing what was happening 100 years ago.
Yes.
However, so many men of a particular generation moved on to electric razors that no child has seen dad shaving properly.
Yeah.
So, and then it sort of perpetuates itself.
I've never, ever managed to get a good shave with an electric razor.
Most men with any sort of beard, any sort of good sort of day growth stubble, need to have a wet shave.
Yeah.
I think the people that can get away are the people that have got the very soft skin where there's sort of no beard at all.
Right.
It's somebody who doesn't have to shave for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But if you've got to get a 5 o'clock shadow, or every day you've got beard.
Yes.
And of course the other thing is that you should actually do all your shaving at night, not in the morning.
Okay.
That's
that
an
turns
interesting.
my whole world
Yes,
on
it
its
turns your whole
head.
world upside down.
Right.
The theory behind it, as far as I can remember, is if you do it at night, your skin, and then you're sleeping.
Right.
When you're sleeping, your skin and cells are regenerating, and actually any damage that you've done to the skin will settle down.
Repairs.
So you'll still wake up in the morning with a clean-shaven look. But it has been done at the night, not rushed. So any nicks, any sore bits, all of that's been dealt with. It's a difficult one because most men, I think, are taught to shave in the morning.
Yeah. I've always, if I'm going out for dinner or something, and on a Saturday, because I generally pass up on a shave on a Saturday or a Sunday on occasion.
On an occasion.
Just to have a rest from it. But if I'm going out to dinner on Saturday evening, I'll have a shave in the evening. And you're right. The next morning, you know that you don't.
The other thing is,
chin.
again, the best place to shave is actually in the shower, because while the water is running, you're actually in like a steam atmosphere. So you're actually having a steam. Now in a facial, the thing before the facial and all the scrubbing, your skin is steamed to open up the pores so that all the dirt can come out.
Right.
So that's actually what's happening when you're in a shower.
Okay.
Prior to you shaving, you've been sort of in your own little steam cabinet. But again, people aren't taught this. It's timing. A lot of men are just programmed to do it in the morning.
Yeah.
And would find it very odd, or would possibly think that it's not right because by lunchtime they're going to have 5 o'clock shadow, so.
Yes.
But it really is the best time for the skin.
For your skin.
To do it at night and then sleep.
And so the preparation for a shave, I'm gonna ideally have a shower and soften the skin up, and then what's the next stage?
I think for softening the skin again, there are so many products now, but dependent on what your skin type is, you could be softening your skin up with soaps, oils, gels, but obviously you have to use something. You can't put a harsh blade straight onto your skin.
Right.
You should also, there is a point where you need to do some exfoliation if you can, using whatever scrubs that you can use. When you're after your shave, and this is also very important, you need to actually cool the skin down.
Right.
There's I don't know quite, I won't say old-fashioned, but there was an idea that you had to throw alcohol at your face, in terms of some non-named,
yeah,
and it had to hurt, and it had to sting,
yes,
and therefore it was doing good.
Yeah.
But really, that's just your skin going, oh my God, what have you just put on me? It's supposed to be a calming. So,
Right.
you'll see now that the products for post-shaving are called balms.
Yes.
So it's aftershave balm.
Right.
So it brings it all down. You shouldn't be putting on it, your smell should be something that belongs to the family of smells that you've been using.
Right.
Again, so that you're not layering up. But going back to the shave, when I watch them, the preparation is all about getting the skin ready. And that's usually, we use a lot of oil. We use oils on the skin to get it ready.
Right.
And then the right soaps or the right gels, put into the right place. But
Yeah.
I think the main thing is, what I see and what I listen when I see the principles, is actually shaving in the right direction. Because otherwise you do get the nips and the little...
Yeah, and then that leads to sort of trapped hairs and problems if you...
Yes, ingrown hairs are a real problem, and so is what you could have a shaving rash. And again, that's quite easily curable if you're using... That's often to do with not using the right products. You have to use the right products for a post-shave as well as pre-shave.
I think it's also... I find I would have a rest from shaving at the weekends. But I find if I don't shave for a period of time, if I don't shave for 2 or 3 days, then the skin gets less resistant to the next shave.
Yes.
If you shave every day, then your skin's building up some resistance to it, and you don't then get a shaving rash. I'll get a rash if I haven't shaved for 4 or 5 days for some reason, if I've been off to...
Well, actually, that leads me on to something that I can perfectly say that we do. We actually refuse to shave some gentlemen, and these are the gentlemen that book to have a shave, probably their first professional shave, on the day of their wedding. Now you can imagine, if you're saying what you're saying,
right,
a bride has been getting herself ready for a wedding for usually, I think it's about 18 months, many practices
right.
of everything, and a guy decides to have a haircut and a shave for his wedding on the wedding day, maybe 6 hours before. And we refuse to do it, and they don't understand. But we know exactly, if this guy's never had a proper shave, if he's a home shaver only, he will probably have a bright red face for his wedding, because his face and skin will react to having the shave. So what we do is, we try so often to tell people that they need, for a man, start coming in 6 weeks before. We'll do a shave 6 weeks before. We will do it so that by the time it comes to the day, you've had 3 or 4 shaves. We've seen how your skin reacts. We'll know whether it's acceptable to do it on the day, or we'll do it the day before.
Yes.
I mean, I do not want to be responsible for sending a man up the aisle with a bright red face.
Yes.
I mean, after all the bride's been through to get to the aisle, and all her preparation, to then find that her husband looks like he's a bit of, beetroot or something. Not acceptable.
So there's a whole other world from when I first started shaving with with my disposable Bic razor and my tin of something and my large handfuls of, I don't know, Old Spice or so, with all that alcohol.
Something
on
with
it.
a lot
It's
of alcohol,
yeah.
yes.
But I know, now that's a point. I thought about that a moment ago. I was always told that the reason you had alcohol in after shave was to close the pores down. So what would?
Well, I suppose where we are, it's slightly different at a professional shave, because with a professional shave, we're actually using hot and cold towels, and that's
Okay.
what does it.
Right.
Really, alcohol is not a good idea. I mean, you can just rinse your face with cool water and
And that just calms.
it'll just
or
calm it
closes
all
everything
down. And then use a
Gently.
balm that's got some really nice calming ingredients in.
Right.
And leave it for a moment or two before you do any spraying with any fragrances.
Mm-hmm.
Or finish with an oil, or finish with a moisturiser. I mean, you really must use a moisturiser after a shave. And in this weather, even though the sun is not absolutely as bright as it could be, you should have SPF factor in it as well, so that you're protecting your skin.
And that's again, I've been reading about that recently. That's getting more and more, coming to the fore more and more now, isn't it?
Well,
all year round.
Most products now coming out onto the market for both men and women, in terms of anything to do with moisturising for the face, has got a factor in it, you know, so that it's just one cream on the face, but you're actually having your daily levels there, because so many people sort of don't understand that you can actually get burnt skin,
Yeah.
sunburn,
Yes.
in this sort of weather, because the rays are still strong, they're still coming through. It's just because we're England.
Yes.
I mean,
We assume.
Yes, because the
we're
minute
all right.
we go on holiday, you show me somebody who goes on holiday and who hasn't got a bag full of factor 50, 30, 15 and 8, you know, they start with the heavy and go, they know they're in the sun, that's
Yes.
what they've got to do.
Yeah.
We should be doing it as well here.
Because it's the sun is very aging, isn't it? On
It's the
skin,
most
over long
aging.
term.
Most aging. I mean, you know, if you want to keep a nice, soft, reasonably unlined skin, which a lot of English people do actually have genetically, then you need to be moisturising and using an SPF factor.
Right. So we've talked about massages, we've talked about shaving, and we've talked about moving from shaving on into a facial, a very, very subtle way that you take men into a facial, which I like very much. And I think I can't imagine many people walking through the door, and men just walking through the door and asking up front for a facial, or even realising that they need one.
Yeah, but I think you're absolutely right there. Quite often, somebody might have said something to them, or they've been reading about it, because there's a lot of journalism now about male grooming. Quite often, though, it is prompted by the female in the family. It could even be a daughter or wife. There comes a point where a lot of women want to sort of chivvy up their men and stop them just slowly going downhill. Because women always, you know, we're always sort of changing our makeup and changing our hairs and not trying to look younger, but trying to look the best we can. But quite a lot of men sort of get to a point in there and think, oh, I can't be bothered anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of wives say, oh God, I just wish he'd, you know, sort his hair out. You know, he's had the same haircut for 30 years. Or eyebrows. Men grow hair. They lose it and grow it.
All in the wrong places.
Yes. So, you know, they'll arrive and they'll have a haircut and then they'll look in the mirror and they'll say, oh my God, I had never realised how big my eyebrows had got, you know. Or ears, nose. Now all my girls specialise in, you know, there's no embarrassment, no. My girls just deal with it and send them on their merry way. And we make sure that when we do it, that their eyebrows are masculine eyebrows. We don't give them what we call the arch shape, which is women's shape like that. You know?
Right.
Men don't have that shape. Your bone is different.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It's quite a move the first time a man sort of goes and sorts out his eyebrows. And yes, it's no, it doesn't.
But
feel.
it does make a lot of difference, because I mean, you know, I think everybody remembers she says, no, I can't remember, Mr. Healy.
Dennis Healy, I was thinking of.
Mr. Healy. So many men do have this.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary because it's something that men do and women don't. We don't suddenly, thank God, start sprouting hair in every orifice.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it would be appalling. It's bad enough dealing with, you know, the bits that we do have to deal with.
Yeah.
But of course, men are now way up in the stakes for body clippering, body waxing, laser hair removal.
Really?
Oh God, it's just huge. We have a whole dedicated team for that now, and a whole a machine that takes.
And these are models or.
I've been asked so many times in the last year why men are removing their hair, and I can't give a straight answer because I think it's a combination of factors. But if you sort of look at almost any man on the front of GQ and Esquire and actors and sportsmen last year in the Olympics,
Yes, yeah.
remember a man with a hairy chest and a hairy back being, it isn't happening anymore.
Right.
Back in the day when Sean Connery first was Bond in the 60s,
Yes.
he's sitting in a press shot with Ursula Andress, and he's very hirsute, he's got a very hairy chest, got a very hairy back. That would not get onto the front of anything anymore. They all have to be hair-free. So it's coming from editors.
And so that comes from people seeing
fashion,
that, and then
yes,
it sort of
yeah.
it works through to the general population.
Yeah. So you know.
And
yes.
if I steel myself to do that,
yes.
am I going to end up with you putting wax strips on my back to take? What do you?
Well, yes, it's not yes, it's not wax strips. We put wax on your back.
Do I
and
need a
it's
general
taken off.
anaesthetic?
I have heard men scream. To be really truthful, it can't be very easy because chest and back are quite big. If you're a big man, you've got a big back and a big chest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's much more than me sort of doing 4 inches up my legs.
Right.
I think that's why the laser hair removal has become so extraordinarily popular with the men that waxed a lot, because although they have to have some quite intense treatments, it's not painful, and then they're hair free. They may have to top up. They do it sort of once every 6 weeks for 6 months.
Right.
And then theoretically, maybe every 3 to 6 months they need a top up.
Right.
Because hair follicles grow because your brain tells them to grow, and there may be dormant hair follicles.
Okay.
So it's got nothing to do with the fact that we haven't done the job properly.
It just springs up.
Suddenly will spring up, and we'll just quickly whip that off. But a lot of men are going for that sort of look. Also, if we can be delicate about it, women have been becoming more and more hair-free.
Right.
Over the last 30 years in beauty. There's now all sorts of names, you know, Brazilians and Hollywoods, and women are becoming sort of hair-free. Right. And whether these women are looking at their men and the difference between a normal hairy man and this female hairless body, something they're not really liking, maybe they're pushing them. We don't know what it is. But there is no hairy men left in the public eye. I mean, even if you have a look, there was the rugby, is it the Australian rugby team? Yeah. And they all pulled their shirts up for a shot, and they've all been waxed.
Really?
Yes, really.
Really?
Or maybe it's New Zealand. But
okay, I shall go back and how it...
Yes.
Rugby players.
Yes, rugby players. I mean, obviously the sports where you needed it for the speed. Cyclists have always waxed. Yeah. Swimmers have always waxed.
Yes.
The footballers say they have to, whether they really have to, I don't, but they've joined, they do it.
Yeah, I had it's speed, but it's also, again, for cycling, if you're going to fall off and then have someone put plaster on you, then having a plaster taken off a hairy leg is
it's like being waxed, but without the sort of finesse.
Preparation, yes, that's right. So I think that's.
And again, all these young boy bands and things like that. I mean, again, everybody wants tattoos. Well, you can't really have a tattoo if you've got big hairy arms. So hairs have to come off before tattoos go on. It's very intriguing to me how this is happening, but.
And then tanning. Now, again, it's extraordinary, but it appeared on BBC Radio this week. There's an article about tanning and how people are regarding it as it was Radio 4 about an item about tanning. So men, is that a common thing?
Not as common as women,
Right.
but catching up, as with everything. You know, this is an industry that hasn't really had that many years. You know, we've had a decade and a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, women's grooming has been going on for like millions of years, so there's
Right.
catching up to do. We have quite a few men who do come and have a spray tan. I would never advocate sunbeds because I think they are detrimental to your health.
Right.
We have a lot of guys who come in who want to look healthy.
Right.
And I think this is all to do with looking well, you know, people in the workplace trying to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's that sort of slight pressure on people to look good.
Yeah.
And they'll often have it on a Friday afternoon. We're nearly always fully booked with people having spray tans who will then go back to work on a Monday and say they've been on the boat playing polo, doing some
I've had a very healthy outdoor weekend.
life,
Look
but
at
in
me,
fact,
I'm glowing.
Yes,
Right.
they've been sprayed. We
Right.
also get a lot of guys who don't want to look like the English beached whale on holiday.
Right.
So they'll come and have a spray tan prior to going. So the minute they go out posing on the beach, they already look like they've been there for a while.
Right.
So that sort of sets them up. Some people just don't like to look like pale. And then you've got others who we're not really sure why they do it, but it's a behind thing. I mean, women have been tanning for years, but men, and what they don't do is they tend not to do it at home. We'll often do it all at home, you know, just put a cream on ourselves.
Right.
Men wouldn't be happy about that, so they come to us and we do it properly.
And the point they were making on the radio was that there's you know, what we've seen on television, some of these guys that look bright orange, that actually that everything's much more subtle now, so that you can, you know, almost pick from your Dulux colour chart and say, oh, I don't want mahogany or tango orange. I want just a very light.
We've just got 3 settings for our men because, you know, to give them more choice, it's just going to be sort of like, you know, it's going to be too much.
Yeah.
But we always suggest, unless you happen to have a very dark skin, that you start on the lightest and we build it up.
Right.
Because women will have almost anything done to them and happily go back to work, and they'll say, I've had a tan, I've had a facial, I've had my nails done, I've had my highlights done. Men, I mean, if we could have 3 lots of evening appointments, you know how between sort of 4 and 9 o'clock, we could keep filling them up because they come after work and then they don't go back to work. I mean, the haircut's fine, shave's fine.
Yes.
But anything in the beauty line, they prefer to sort of give a few hours in hopes of nobody notices, in a way.
Right.
To a point.
New day, new suit. Everything looks different.
And they'll say, no, I just had a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And you don't get many men chatting away at the bar about they've got an amazing new facialist on their speed dial or whatever. But they're just not saying it. So there's still some boundaries that will be pushed as we go on. But most men in London want to be well groomed.
And so the future. Where do you think men's grooming is going to go?
That's a really big question, and one I'm not really sure I can answer, because 5 years ago I didn't really know there was this huge male grooming. You know, I've learned it over the 5 years. I've seen it progress. A lot of people have gone onto the bandwagon but not done it very well and fallen by the wayside, which is sad to see. But you know, you must, you know, look at sort of do your due diligence. Be suddenly thinking, oh, I can open one of these fancy schmancy barbers in this town. You know, you've got to sort of have a look at your demographics and work out who would come to you, would pay these amounts. After all, you know, people say to me, well, why would I come to you and pay £65 for a haircut when I can go and get one for £10 on the corner? But it's all about the experience, it's all about the time that we're taking, it's all about everything else that we're offering you. Where it goes, I think we've got quite a way to go, because very, very gently, cosmetic surgery is coming in now. We have a lady who does Botox.
Right.
We have quite a few gentlemen who like to come and have their Botox done, and I doubt if they'd ever admit to having it done.
No.
So, you know, where it'll go, I don't know, because I'm not sure what we could do more, but then there's always something. You know, when I came, we didn't have laser hair removal, you know, now we have. And now we've had it for nearly 3 years, and it's probably one of our most amazing treatments that we can do.
Yes.
Very successful ones. And machines. Men have been liking machines now, so we're getting more machine-based.
Right.
We're just taking on something that's for the skin that's like an electric toothbrush. So if you imagine the difference an ordinary toothbrush and an electric toothbrush does for your teeth, well, this is for cleansing the skin.
Right.
It cleanses 6 times deeper.
Right.
In about 20 seconds. I don't know too much about the hows and the whys. It's electric. It's on. It's got different brushes on it, and you just hold it on your skin. But that sort of thing will start coming in more now. Specifically, this has been on the market for a long time in pink. Now they've done a bigger version in black.
Right. So it's male.
Male.
It's all right.
Yeah. But it's like the names for some of our. You know, we have to change names about things. We've got galvanic and high frequency. Now they're the machines that do different things to the skin. They loved the laser. They're always bringing further things out. I think the next thing is body. I think men are going to start actually realising that skin doesn't finish here, and we'll start doing some of the things that women do to try and keep body skin going. So.
And do you think that there's that sort of reluctance or resistance? You said, and I can sympathise with the point that my wife introduced me to having facials and things like that. But I've actually found that I really enjoy it, and so I don't really need dragging, kicking, and screaming. I love steam. I love to go and have a sauna and a steam bath and things like that. And if anybody offered me a weekend or a day at a spa, I'd be gone tomorrow. So I don't need. But do you find that am I unusual in that, or are men finding that that's the way that they're happy?
You're not unusual, but you're still in the minority.
Right.
To like it as much as you do from day one.
Right.
We have to sort of coerce guys in, and this is why so many of my men who come in on a gift voucher, the gift voucher states a shaving experience,
right?
Because the women or whoever know that if he'd been given a voucher for a facial, he would not have come in,
right?
Because he's going to have some perception. I think the minute they step inside, we're already breaking down the barriers.
Yes.
It's very masculine, but without being aggressive or intimidating.
Yeah.
And as I say, my girls are just lovely, straightforward girls who will just explain in a straightforward. We're not going to like bamboozle anybody with various sciences and things. And quite often, when we do get these guys in who are a bit scared, it's a slight battle at first, but you can just break it down by being gentle with them.
Yes.
And sort of not expecting too much back from them, and sometimes you think, oh my God, you know, he didn't like that. You won't see him again. And that's the guy that will probably book a course of 6 treatments.
Right.
It's quite difficult. Some are slightly embarrassed to say they've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But you know they have, because they're coming back.
Yes.
I mean, the minute they return, the once we know we've got them, and you know, many return.
They're going to come and do it a second time and properly enjoy it.
Yes, because once they know us, they're actually quite fine. Not scared.
No, and it's, as you say, it just taking a little extra time does make a difference. Just understanding and not having a huge range of products necessarily, but just proper shaving products.
And having products that have been made for their skin, not products that have been made for their wife's skin, which may actually not suit. So it's not doing any good at all.
Or smell right.
No.
So I'm certainly going to one day next week. One night next week. I'm going to have a shave one evening, and I'm going to test that out. But I always learn something new when I meet you, and that's been really wonderful.
You're very welcome.
So thank you for that. We'll pause briefly, and we will move on then with the 10 questions. So Deborah, now we're going to move on with the 10 perfect gentleman questions. So, what is it that embodies a gentleman for you?
I've been trying to think about this, and I actually at first thought it was something that you saw, but it's not. It's something about them. It's an honour, it's an integrity, it's manners, it's the way they treat you that I feel sets a gentleman aside.
Excellent. And what's the most romantic thing that a gentleman has ever done for you that you've experienced?
Understood what I liked, so therefore whisked me off for a wonderful weekend to the Le Manoir, Quatre Saisons. And then after that, whisked me off to Bicester Shopping Village. So I had all
Great
the wonderful,
combination.
yes, you know, the beauty of the food and the hotel and the romance, and then shopping.
What a gentleman.
Absolutely.
If you could see one gentlemanly trait introduced into business in general, what would that be?
I think inherently then gentlemen tend to have a slightly softer side. Might be hidden,
Right.
but it's there somewhere. And I think that slightly softer, slightly less aggressive approach in business would sometimes work well. Because I just feel sometimes, I mean, if somebody's vaguely aggressive with you, your defences are immediately up, and and what your communication isn't really working. Take that away. You know, if you want somebody to help you and say, I'm just wondering if you could possibly help me with this, you want to help somebody. Yeah.
We've just spent a short while talking about grooming, but if there was one element that you could pick that a gentleman should focus on, what would that be?
I personally feel that it's fingernails. And I do believe, and I think it was Cosmo magazine quite recently, had bad fingernails in their top 3 turn-offs that men thought about, not women thought about men.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's an important one to remember. Okay. Name an iconic gentleman, someone who you think of through time as a gentleman.
This, I think, is a really hard question because in my mind are popping up Sean Connerys and the Clooneys. I actually have no idea if they're gentlemen. I mean, they look like they could be, but I don't know. I'm going to actually say somebody that nobody here will know because it was my father, who was the epitome of a gentleman when he went to work. He worked in the city. It was in the days where you had a bowler hat and the striped trousers and the brolly. But he was an absolute old softie, and somehow it's that soft part of him that would come through. The other guys look like they could be gentlemen, for sure, but not sure if they are.
Sure. That's a very, very good point. What, for you, is the most important item that a gentleman should have in their wardrobe, that they should wear? What do you look for?
Well-polished shoes.
Do I pass?
You do. I find so many men, you know, top to cuff of fabulous, beautiful suits and ties and match. Everything is wonderful, and then they've obviously got the most appalling taste in shoes, or nobody has told them how to actually brush them. They may have got expensive leather shoes, but they're all chipped and unpolished, and it, for me,
not cared for.
I would, you know, don't go there with those shoes. Just, you know, just have one pair of decent shoes. You don't have to have lots.
Okay. Why should there be more gentlemen in the world?
I think it would just be a nicer place. I just think the real gentlemen that I know, you know, it's a pleasure to be with them. And it would be, I think also too sartorially, it would be rather gorgeous, because I do mentally think of a gentleman being somebody who's well dressed. I know we can have many gentlemen who aren't, but in my work and in my commuting, I see so many men that need such a good seeing to in grooming terms,
Yep.
that they really, really, and they have, huge sort of bits of their anatomy hanging over. I just don't, you think, no. I think it would be a nicer place to actually look at men in a sartorial fashion.
Excellent. What key skills should every young gentleman be taught?
Courtesy, manners, how to eat properly, restaurant skills, how to sort of not be flummoxed when somebody brings you a small amount of wine to drink, not get all embarrassed about it, just sort of know what you're doing and doing.
Yeah.
So all those sort of life skills that sort of not only make the gentleman better, but
Yeah.
actually make it nicer to be with that gentleman.
Right. A relaxed experience. Yeah. What should a gentleman never be without?
Well, I can think of an obvious sort of silly one. I think a gentleman always ought to have a hanky on him in case a lady needs it, because we ladies tend not to ever have hankies anymore.
Right.
Sense of humour, probably, things like that. But maybe a Swiss Army knife. I don't, always prepared, I'm
Right.
not sure, but something along those lines, I think. So what would he have on his... So he would have a corkscrew and he'd have a pair of scissors.
Right. And one of those tools for getting
Yes.
stones out of horses' heads.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
you could now be doing something else with that. However, trouble is they're quite bulky.
Right.
So somebody needs to do a very slimline one,
Right.
because while suits are slimline in fashion, but
A
something that
slimline
can,
Swiss
yeah.
Army knife. Okay. Well, it's just like Desert Dundas. We'll make that happen. Okay. And finally, finish this sentence. A gentleman should always.
Gentlemen should always remember to behave like a gentleman. I don't really know. What should a gentleman do? What should a gentleman? It's such a hard one, because I think I've got very different views on my gentleman. I think it's very important for a gentleman to sort of be aware of other people around them and not be the big I am pushing around, mind way there's a gentleman coming forward. Because some gentlemen equate that sort of bullishness
Yeah.
and that aggression with gentleman behaviour,
Yes.
which I don't, but I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And as I think we've discussed before, I have seen many people who look anything but a gentleman act in a far more gentlemanly manner than the gentleman sitting there, who hasn't given a seat up or whatever it is. So I think being a gentleman is as important. It's what's in your heart and in your head about how you treat other people, how you portray yourself. There's no point in being fabulously suited and booted if you're an empty shell, and that, what I call the courtesy
Yeah.
and the manners, aren't there, because that's just pretending.
Cool. Deborah, it's been absolutely a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
You're very
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.